Hello, you beautiful nerds. I gotta admit, I've never read this comic. Though I did read the premise that got me intrigued, it stayed in my Amazon wish list until, well, like forever. I still haven't read it. But I saw the trailer for the new Amazon Prime series and it looked pretty good. But now that I've watched all of season 1, I can say that I'm glad that I watched it. Even though it's not good. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about what we're talking about. So put on your time travel trousers and let's have a quick chat about paper. The show follows the Drunk Banthas channel on YouTube. No, wait, no, that's you. You follow us on YouTube. Because you're subscribed, right? Yeah, of course you are. Anyway, this show follows Tiff, Aaron, Mac, and KJ, who are, spoiler alert, paper girls.
Hey, that's the name of the show.
It's Aaron's first day, so the other girls are showing her the ropes. While out on their route, a big purple cloud appears in the sky, and the girls are abducted by these dudes in Dune cosplay. Those guys get killed by these creepy dudes in white armor as the girls retreat to Aaron's house where everything is totally fine. Oh, except they're in the year 2019, and now Aaron is staring at the 40-year-old version of herself.
12-year-old version of yourself broke into your house with her punk friends?
But other than that, everything is totally fine.
You girls traveled out of your time. That's a capital offense. You're in targets now.
Oh, and they're being tracked down by these scary time-traveling super cops. But other than that, everything is totally fine. The concept for the show is pretty wonderful, to be honest. What the show arguably succeeds at the most is depicting the emotional weight of time travel. What if you traveled in the future and future you is less ambitious and worn down by grief and trauma? What if future you is dead and that death caused people who treated you like shit in the past to change their ways for the better? How would those things completely fuck with you? Especially when you have the emotional maturity of a preteen. The show is about these little kids being caught up in a civil war across space and time.
You have no idea what's at stake here.
Yeah, it's the fate of humanity, I get it.
But what it's really about is what would happen if you at the most ambitious and optimistic point in your life met you at the darkest, most depressed point in your life. It's kind of like how Back to the Future is a movie about getting back
to the future.
But what it's really about is what if your no-nonsense mom was just like you when she was a kid? It's kind of the vibe of this show. Except this doesn't seem to adhere to normal movie time travel rules, because almost all of the girls meet future versions of themselves. All time travel stories get kind of murky when the story focuses on the logistics too much or too little.
Time travel shit just fries your brain like an egg.
So with this, it's best to just go with it and let the show explain stuff to you rather than to try to figure shit out, because the how isn't that important. And for good or ill, the show seems more interested in the emotional stuff than the sci-fi stuff. The scenes between young Aaron and future Aaron are especially good. Young Aaron is mad because future Aaron hasn't lived up to her potential, and future Aaron is like, shit happens. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about because you're just a kid. And they're both kind of right.
They're both right.
Oh, by the way, Ali Wong said, you know what, y'all? I can act. I was very surprised by how well she hit the dramatic beats in this one. Actually, everyone on this show is stupid good at acting, and they kinda rock my fucking face off. Every one of the main characters gets a moment where they get to show off their acting superpowers, and they all nail it. This concept is pretty out there, and it would fall flat if the cast wasn't given 110%. The big bads are played by two actors who are criminally underrated, and I was so excited to see that they were in this show. I've always been a big fan of Adina Porter, and a villain role just seemed like it was right up her alley. And Jason Mantzoukas is one of the best comedic actors working today.
I did find a big fresh pile of shit that I thought I'd second harvest because it was full of Hershey Kisses. Spoiler alert, they weren't Hershey Kisses. It was just more shit. I ate it all anyway, got sick to my tummy, puked, pooped, jerked off, and now I'm here with you bros.
Unfortunately though, the characters are pretty lame. Porter is kind of a one-note cliche bad guy, and Zooks is barely in it. He looks and acts way different than the other time cops, but we don't really understand why, and we don't spend enough time with him to truly find out. They just never seem that menacing, and there may be a reason for that, but I don't think that we got enough of these guys to truly feel the threat of their presence. The kids also don't seem to have a consistent sense of urgency. Minor spoilers, but there is a scene where one adult character is like, I'm gonna distract the bad guys, you get as far away as you can. And the kids just sit there and watch the fight. They don't go fucking anywhere. I was like, what are you doing? She just told you to run. All the kid actors are great, but I wasn't a huge fan of the character of Mac. She was just a little extra in every single way. The actress is great though, and her storyline with her brother is my favorite of all the personal stuff. Her character is just written a bit much, and I think that speaks to the bigger problem of the series. There is way too little story for this season to last as long as it does. This could have very easily been a movie for how little plot it has in 8 episodes. The way that the show is shot and edited, it adds so much unnecessary time to scenes sometimes. Like, there are a few moments that feel like we're pausing for a live studio audience reaction or something. It's confusing to me because the writing isn't bad and the actors are out of this world good. And I started to have a feeling pretty early on like, this is a good story. These are good actors. Why do I feel kind of bored right now? The pacing is really odd and tends to spend a little bit too much time on certain beats. And there are some scenes that are completely useless. Like, there's one 2-minute interaction where past Tiff and future Tiff are like, we're discovering time travel. I can't believe it. Isn't that cool? And I'm like, yeah, we know. That's the premise of the show. Isn't it episode 6? What the fuck are we doing? It's not like I need non-stop action. The emotional stuff really works for me. There were just a few too many times where I felt like they were trying to stretch the story out so they could reach the 8 episode mark. And this isn't the first time that I've noticed this with streaming shows. If you've listened to the podcast, you know that I've had this problem with a lot of streaming shows lately, and I'm glad that I'm not the only one who noticed. Not sure if you've read the Vulture article from Eric Kripke, where he basically says the same thing about how so many new series on streaming services have a pacing problem. The show takes way too long to get as weird as it wants to be, and then once it gets nuts, there's not enough balance of the drama and the comedy and the action to feel like a fully fleshed out season of television. Now, I don't know if Stephanie Folsom's exit caused the show's messiness, or if she left the show because the show was starting to look really messy. I don't know what happened, but I do see the show struggling with its tone, and that really affects how interesting the show is from episode to episode. I had high hopes for this series because this was a very interesting idea for a comic and subsequently a show, and out of the adult actors that I actually know, I'm a big fan of the cast. I do hope they get a second season with a much bigger budget, but the first season of Paper Girl stumbles out of the gates and leaves a lot to be desired in the plot category. The characters are the saving grace of this series, and if Amazon really wants to make this their Stranger Things, they need to give this a budget like The Boys, and they need a showrunner that can manage the story so it can actually feel like a TV show instead of a movie that's 40 minutes too long. My ranking, I didn't like it. I hesitate giving it this rating, especially considering how much I like the stuff that did work, but overall this season was a big disappointment compared to what it could have been. Okay, that's it for this review, but there is an insane amount of nerd stuff coming out this year, and I can't wait to talk to you guys about it. Keep listening to the Drunk Banthas podcast, where we'll be talking about a bunch of the TV shows that are coming out week to week. Black Adam is coming out soon, and Black Panther is like, I feel like that movie is right around the corner. I'm so stoked. But until then, stay safe, my little robot insects, and may the force be with you.